He looked like the everyday, every season Santa Claus in a bar having a drink on Christmas Eve. But you couldn't be more wrong.
How do you know my grandson's name? How do you know I have a grandson? I. My God.
He actually comes down the chimney and enjoys himself when delivering Christmas gifts. However, this Christmas is different. He has seen a family in distress, and how can he reject a sweet little girl's plea? This is a Santa Claus movie like no other. In Bristol, England, on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus sat alone in a dimly lit bar, attempting to drown his sorrows. The usual holiday cheer was far from his mind. Instead, he was angry at the greed that seemed to dominate the world. The job had become more of a burden than a joy. Nearby, another man dressed as Santa was enjoying a drink before heading off to deliver presents, claiming this was his 4th year on the job. Santa, who was very weary, told the other man that he had been at it for countless years and was ready to quit. After finishing his drink, Santa stood, handed the bartender a gift for her grandson, and walked out to the rooftop. The bartender, surprised that Santa knew about her grandson, hurried after him to warn him about falling off the roof. Instead, she was met with the astonishing sight of a sleigh being pulled by reindeer. Her amazement quickly turned to shock as Santa, taking off in the sleigh, accidentally vomited on her as he flew away. Meanwhile, in Greenwich, Connecticut, a man named Jason Lightson, who was trying to mend his relationship with family, is reunited with his estranged wife, Linda, and their daughter, Trudy. They were spending Christmas at the luxurious estate of Jason's wealthy mother, Gertrude Lightson. The car ride to the estate was tense, but Trudy lightened the mood with a joke. Upon arrival, the family was greeted by the estate's security guard, Al, who allowed them in. Inside the grand estate, Jason and his family gathered in the living room to greet Gertrude and Jason's sister, Alva. Linda went to greet Alva while Jason placed their gifts under a massive Christmas tree. When he joined his wife and sister, Alva hinted that their mother might soon decide who would take over the family business. She was confident it would be her. Jason, unimpressed, tells his wife about the family's questionable ethics. He talked about Alva's son, Gertrude, who had been accused of misconduct in school but was shielded by Gertrude's influence. He also expressed disdain for Morgan Steele, Alva's ambitious boyfriend, whom Jason believed was only interested in the family's wealth. As Gertrude approached, Alva, Morgan, and Gertrude scrambled to greet her at the door, trying to impress her. Linda suggested Jason do the same, but he chose to sit at the back of the room with his family. Gertrude entered, engrossed in a phone call, ignoring everyone. She left and returned twice without acknowledging her family, leaving them puzzled. Alva, interpreting Jason's relaxed demeanor as a possible strategy, moved to the back of the room as well. When Gertrude finally ended her call, she was baffled to see everyone huddled at the back. After chatting with Trudy, she invited everyone to dinner. Elsewhere, Santa continued delivering presents. His mood darkened as he encountered a note asking for cash, a stark reminder of the greed he despised. However, when he saw a single father passed out from exhaustion, Santa softened. He left a thoughtful gift for the man's child and took the leftover beer as he departed. Back at the Lightson estate, Trudy showed her parents the candies she had prepared for Santa. She was upset that Jason hadn't taken her to see Santa at the mall. So to cheer her up, Jason gave her a toy walkie-talkie, telling her she could use it to talk to Santa. He cautioned that Santa might be too busy to respond immediately. Relieved, Trudy shared her Christmas wish into the device. She wanted her parents to reconcile and live together as a family. Later that night, Santa arrived at the Lightson estate. He admired Trudy's candies and indulged in a bottle of brandy. Relaxing in a massage chair, he inadvertently dozed off. Meanwhile, one of the estate's security agents, nicknamed Gingerbread, betrayed the family by knocking out another guard and disabling the internet. Outside, Jimmy Martinez, the leader of the group, killed AI the security guard at the gate and then informed his men that it was time. As gunfire erupted, Jason was apologizing to Linda, hoping for a fresh start, but the chaos interrupted them. Santa, startled awake by the commotion, realized he was in danger. In the meantime, Gertrude's guards hurried her to a safe room, but Alva and her family were denied entry, telling them that they were not essential assets. Before Gertrude could be secured, Jimmy intercepted her group, killing the guards and taking everyone hostage in the living room. He ordered his men to search the house for other occupants. Santa, still inside, tried to escape unnoticed. Attempting to use his magic to ascend the chimney, he discovered it wasn't working. As he tried repeatedly, one of Jimmy's men found him and forced him downstairs. Santa, unwilling to fight, tried to comply, but the man attacked him, causing a scuffle. In the chaos, a gunshot startled Santa's reindeer, causing them to flee. Left stranded and infuriated, Santa defended himself, ultimately overpowering and killing his attacker. Despite his victory, Santa found himself trapped, contemplating his next move amidst the unfolding crisis. Santa slowly rose from where he had fallen and noticed the man who had attacked him was impaled on a massive spike of ice. The sight of his reindeer far away in the sky frustrated him, but Santa gathered his magic bag and the candy that had fallen to the ground and began walking away. However, something happening inside the house caught his attention, prompting him to turn back. From his vantage point, Santa saw Jimmy, the intruder, gathering the entire Lightsun family in the living room. Gertrude Lightsun tried to assert her authority, warning Jimmy that he didn't know the powerful family he was dealing with. Jimmy silenced her with a blow, retorting that he was well aware of who they were. He explained that knew that if the estate were under attack, an extraction team would arrive in 30 minutes. Despite this, Jimmy remained confident, as he was on a mission to retrieve over $300 million allegedly hidden in the house. He claimed the money, originally meant for charitable work in the Middle East, had been stolen by the Lightsun family. To demonstrate his seriousness, one of Jimmy's men fired into the ceiling, terrifying Trudy, the youngest Lightsun. Santa's gaze shifted to Trudy, who looked very scared. Remembering the candy she had prepared for him, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. It was time to act. Inside the house, Jimmy's men discovered the vault and began working to crack its code. Meanwhile, one of them came across the impaled body outside and alerted Jimmy. Alarmed, Jimmy instructed his men to be vigilant and investigate further. While exploring the basement, one of the goons stumbled upon Santa. Santa, desperate and improvising, rummaged through his magical bag but only found a toy Santa figurine. Using it as a makeshift weapon, he struck the man. However, the firearm Santa managed to wrestle from the goon had its safety on, rendering it useless. The intruder overpowered Santa, throwing him across the room. When the man pinned Santa to the ground with a knife, Santa retaliated by stabbing the man in the eye with a decorative Christmas star and electrocuting after plugging the star's power cord. Exhausted, Santa picked up the man's radio. On the other end of the line, Trudy, playing with her walkie-talkie, was stunned to hear someone answer. She asked if he was the real Santa and, through their brief conversation, begged him to save her family. Moved, Santa checked his magical Christmas list and confirmed Trudy's place on the nice list. The other 6 intruders, however, were firmly on the naughty list. Santa promised Trudy he would help her and her family. Jimmy, who was monitoring the security cameras, realized that a man dressed as Santa was responsible for his guard's death. He demanded his men find and kill Santa. Meanwhile, Santa made his way to the gatehouse, only to discover Al, the security guard, had been killed. Listening to the intruder's radio chatter, Santa intercepted Jimmy's transmission and introduced himself. When Jimmy threatened to kill him, Santa ominously replied, "Santa Claus is coming to town," before ending the transmission. Realizing he was wounded from the earlier scuffle, Santa patched himself up but eventually collapsed from blood loss. Back inside, Jimmy grew impatient and demanded to know who had hired the mysterious Santa. When he threatened to kill a random person, Alva, who was desperate to save herself, suggested he kill her brother first. She claimed he was the smartest and likeliest culprit. Jimmy grabbed a nutcracker and broke one of Jason's fingers. When no one confessed, he prepared to use a larger nutcracker for a more gruesome punishment. Before the torture escalated, Trudy intervened, announcing that she was the one who had contacted Santa. Jason dismissed this, explaining that her walkie-talkie was just a toy. Undeterred, Trudy insisted that Santa was real and would save them. Jason's attempt to convince her otherwise shattered her faith, and she ran away, hiding in the attic. Once there she called Santa again. Her call reignited Santa's resolve. The two spoke over the radio, with Trudy seeking reassurance that Santa was real. To convince her, Santa recounted a childhood memory of hers when she was 6. Fully convinced of his authenticity, Trudy revealed her plan to set traps like in Home Alone. During their conversation, Santa shared his origins. He revealed his past as Nicomund, a warrior and thief driven by greed. His weapon of choice was a massive hammer he called Skullcrusher. When Trudy asked why he'd lived such a life, Santa admitted it was greed, but she suggested his past was a preparation to help people in moments like these. Meanwhile, the family was forced to exchange Christmas gifts under the watchful eyes of Jimmy's men. Gertrude dismissed Morgan and Alva's gift as unimpressive but lingered over Jason's. After reading the note accompanying his gift, she quietly folded it and declared it a private matter between her and Jason. Around this time, Jimmy received word that the extraction team was nearing the estate. Santa, however, was discovered in his hiding place. Jimmy exploded a fire extinguisher tank near the door Santa was hiding, and this blew him unconscious. While questioning Santa, Jimmy dismissed his claim of being the real Santa Claus and, in a show of cruelty, threw Santa's magical bag into the fire. Furious, Jimmy accused Santa of ruining his life. Just then, it began snowing indoors, astonishing everyone and making Jimmy briefly doubt his disbelief. But the snow turned out to be styrofoam, and Santa used the distraction to escape up the chimney with a burst of Christmas magic. Jimmy, now utterly enraged, doubled down on his pursuit. In the sitting room, Morgan seized an opportunity to escape and approached the extraction team which just arrived outside. The team was led by Commander Thorpe. However, Thorpe and his men were in cahoots with Jimmy. They killed Morgan and joined forces with Jimmy to track down Santa. Moments later, Thorpe gained access to the vault, but when it opened, they found it empty. Jimmy was livid, convinced the money had to be there. Returning to the family, he threatened to kill Linda unless someone revealed the money's whereabouts. Unable to bear the pressure, Jason confessed. He had stolen the money from the vault in a desperate bid to give his family a fresh start. He had written as much in the note accompanying Gertrude's gift, which she was supposed to read the following morning. Linda reassured Jason that they didn't need light sun money to rebuild their family. Santa, meanwhile, regained himself, more determined than ever to save the Lightsun family and punish those on the naughty list. In the basement, Trudy tried to lift Santa's spirits, asking what his one wish would be if he could make it. Santa replied that he wished to see Mrs. Claus again. Inspired, Trudy urged him to fight for that wish. At that moment, Santa's wedding ring slipped from his hand, rolling across the room and stopping beside a sledgehammer. Seeing it as a sign, Santa thanked Trudy for her encouragement and grabbed the weapon. Meanwhile, Jimmy's team prepared to storm the basement to eliminate Santa. Armed with the sledgehammer, Santa unleashed his strength and skill, taking down the intruders one by one, including the lookout stationed outside. Elsewhere, Gingerbread and Candy Cane encountered the traps Trudy had set up. Dismissing them as childish, they avoided the obvious snares but fell victim to the hidden ones. Gingerbread met a gruesome end after a series of painful mishaps. Meanwhile, Candy Cane, injured, crossed paths with Santa as he reunited with Trudy. Ensuring her safety, Santa asked her to turn away, close her eyes, and cover her ears before finishing off Candy Cane. Jimmy and Thorpe took Gertrude and Jason outside to the stable, forcing Jason to reveal where he had hidden the stolen money. Back in the house, Bert, Linda, and Alva managed to overpower and kill the lone guard left behind to watch them. Santa brought Trudy into the room where the family was gathered. Everyone was stunned to see that Santa was real. Seeking help, Santa asked if anyone could handle a gun. Linda stepped forward, and Santa handed her the rifle. She charged outside, opening fire on the men holding Gertrude and Jason. Her shots incapacitated one of them, but Jimmy and Thorpe escaped on a snowmobile, taking Gertrude with them. Discovering this, Santa grabbed a sled and pursued them. Meanwhile, Jason and Linda, having shared a moment of triumph, were about to reconcile when one of the injured men rose and attacked them. Linda tried to shoot but had run out of bullets. The man threw Jason aside and began strangling Linda, but she grabbed an ice spike and fatally struck him. Trudy, who finally witnessed their reconciliation, was overjoyed. Her wish for her family to come together had come true. Santa caught up to the fleeing snowmobile and overtook it. During the scuffle, Gertrude managed to escape, falling to the ground near a gun. Jimmy had reached a wooden house and waited there, luring Santa into a trap. When Santa charged at him with the snowmobile, Jimmy dodged, causing Santa to crash into a stump and fly into the building. Jimmy opened fire on the structure, hitting Santa twice. When he got inside, Jimmy discovered Santa's magical scroll, listing his misdeeds in detail. Shocked by the scroll's accuracy, Jimmy vowed to kill Santa and destroy Christmas. The two fought fiercely, their battle spilling outside when the snowmobile's fuel tank exploded. Jimmy stabbed Santa multiple times and was about to deliver a killing blow when Santa activated his magic, dragging Jimmy up a chimney-like stone structure and killing him. Santa, gravely wounded, collapsed as Thorpe appeared and shot him 4 more times. Before Thorpe could finish him off, Gertrude arrived and killed him. Santa's condition was bad as Jason and the family gathered around. Trudy cried, heartbroken, as Jason and Linda tried to keep Santa warm by building a fire. Jason even threw the stolen money into the flames to intensify the heat, but it was too late. Santa succumbed to his injuries. The family, devastated, confessed their belief in Santa and Christmas magic, bringing a glimmer of hope to Trudy. Moments later, Santa miraculously sneezed and woke up. The family, stunned but overjoyed, asked how he had returned. Santa attributed it to Christmas magic, admitting he didn't fully understand how it worked. He shared a heartfelt hug with Trudy. To everyone's surprise, Santa's reindeer returned, carrying a new magical bag and a gift from Mrs. Claus, his iconic Skullcrusher hammer. Reunited with his tools and reinvigorated, Santa bid the family farewell. He climbed into his sleigh, his spirit restored, and rode off into the night, wishing everyone a very Merry Christmas. If you enjoyed this recap, do not forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.